Before we dive into what might be the most explosive Blue Jays free agency development in franchise history, I need you to do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now because what I'm about to tell you is going to have you checking this channel every single hour for updates. We are witnessing something absolutely unprecedented unfold in real time, and you're not going to want to miss a single second of it. Trust me on this one. Okay, so here's the situation, and I need you to understand just how absolutely insane what's happening right now truly is. 4 weeks, we've been watching this Kyle Tucker free agency saga play out like some kind of slow-motion thriller. The Blue Jays have been linked to him. The Mets have been linked to him. The Dodgers have been doing their Dodgers thing, lurking in the shadows like they always do. And through it all, we've had Ben Nicholson Smith, the most reliable, most conservative, most careful Blue Jays insider in the entire media landscape, consistently pouring cold water on any optimism. Throwing wet blankets on every rumor. Reminding everyone not to get their hopes up. Being the voice of caution and reason while the rest of us were out here dreaming about what Kyle Tucker would look like in a Blue Jays uniform. But last night, something changed. Something massive. Something that has Blue Jays fans absolutely losing their minds on social media. Ben Nicholson Smith, the guy who never gets excited, the guy who always plays it safe, the guy who wouldn't confirm the sun was rising without checking 3 different sources first, went on Sportsnet and dropped an absolute nuclear bomb. He said, and I want you to really hear this, he said that the Mets and Dodgers should be scared. Should be scared. Of the Blue Jays. In the Kyle Tucker pursuit. Let me say that again because I need it to sink in. Ben Nicholson Smith, Mr. Wet Blanket himself, the guy who has spent the entire off-season tempering expectations and telling fans not to get too excited, just went on television and essentially declared that the Blue Jays are not just in this race, they are winning it. They are at the finish line. They are pushing hard. And the 2 biggest spending teams in baseball, the Mets with their billionaire owner and the Dodgers with their infinite payroll, should be legitimately worried about what Toronto is doing right now. Do you understand what this means? Do you grasp the significance of what just happened? This is not some random Twitter personality throwing out hot takes for engagement. This is not some blogger speculating based on nothing. This is Ben Nicholson Smith, the most plugged-in Blue Jays reporter in the business, the guy with actual real sources inside the organization, essentially telling us that something huge is happening behind the scenes. And he wouldn't say this, he wouldn't put himself out there like this, unless he knew something concrete. Unless he had information that gave him confidence to make such a bold statement. Let me take you through the timeline of how we got to this absolutely bonkers moment, because the last 24 hours have been an absolute roller coaster of information, rumors, reports, and earth-shattering developments that have completely changed the landscape of this free agency chase. It started yesterday when multiple notable insiders, including Ken Rosenthal, one of the most respected voices in baseball journalism, reported that Kyle Tucker could make his decision as early as this week. Not next month. Not in a few weeks. This week. As in, we could be just days away from finding out where one of the best left-handed hitters in baseball is going to play for the foreseeable future. The timeline has accelerated dramatically, and suddenly this thing that felt like it might drag on forever is barreling toward a conclusion at breakneck speed. Now, here's where things get really interesting. For a while, we knew the Mets were involved. Steve Cohen, the billionaire owner who treats baseball like his personal fantasy team, has been throwing money around this offseason like he's playing Monopoly with real cash. And sure enough, yesterday Jesse Rogers of ESPN reported that the Mets have offered Kyle Tucker 3 years at $150 million. $50 million per year. That's an absolutely staggering amount of money. That's the kind of offer that makes you sit down and really think about your life choices. That's generational wealth concentrated into just 3 seasons. But here's what was missing from that report. There was no mention of the Blue Jays. Nothing about Toronto's involvement. And if you've been following Blue Jays free agency rumors over the years, you know that silence is often deafening. It usually means one of 2 things. Either the Jays aren't involved at all, or they are being so secretive about their pursuit that nothing is leaking. Given the Jays' history of operating in stealth mode during big free agent pursuits, that silence could have meant anything. And then, like a bolt of lightning cutting through the darkness, Jesse Rogers dropped another report. This time, It confirmed what every Blue Jays fan desperately wanted to hear. Sources told ESPN that the Toronto Blue Jays have also made a long-term offer to Kyle Tucker. Not a short-term deal. Not a lowball offer. A long-term, serious, competitive offer designed to land one of the best players in baseball. The Blue Jays are in this. They're not just kicking tires. They're not just doing their due diligence. They've put real money on the table. They've made a genuine offer. They're fighting for this. Do you understand what a massive deal this is? For weeks, there was legitimate concern among the fanbase that the Jays might not even make an offer. That they might decide Tucker was too expensive or that they were focusing on other positions. There were whispers that maybe Toronto wasn't as serious about this as the Mets or Dodgers. But now we know definitively that the Blue Jays have stepped into the ring. They've made their pitch. They're competing with the biggest spenders in baseball for one of the most coveted free agents on the market. And it didn't stop there. Late last night, around 10 p.m. Eastern, Katie Wu reported that the Dodgers have met. First, let's talk about how secretive the Blue Jays front office is. Ross Atkins and Mark Shapiro do not leak information. They don't play games in the media. They don't use reporters to create leverage or drive up prices. When they're pursuing a free agent, they operate in almost complete silence. Nothing gets out. No details emerge. They conduct their business behind closed doors, and the first time you hear about it is usually when the deal is already done. This has been their modus operandi for years. So the fact that Jesse Rogers was able to report that the Jays made a long-term offer, and the fact that Ben Nicholson Smith is now publicly expressing confidence that Toronto is in a strong position, suggests that the Blue Jays front office is comfortable with this information getting out. And they are only comfortable with that if they believe it helps their cause. If they believe it shows Kyle Tucker and his agent that Toronto is serious. That they are competitive. That they are not going to be outbid without a fight. Second, let's consider the financial implications of what the Blue Jays are doing. According to multiple reports, the Jays have already spent more money this offseason than any other team in baseball. They're number one in total dollars committed to free agents. They went out and signed multiple players to significant contracts. And now, on top of all that spending, they've made what we can assume is at least a $250 million offer for Kyle Tucker, and possibly well over $300 million depending on the term and structure of the deal. Think about what that means. Think about the commitment from ownership that represents. For years, Blue Jays fans have complained about Rogers Communications not spending enough money. About the team being cheap in crucial moments. About missing out on big free agents because they wouldn't go that extra mile financially. But this offseason? This offseason has been completely different. The checkbook is open. The money is flowing. And ownership is clearly giving the front office the green light to do whatever it takes to build a championship contender. The Blue Jays just made the World Series. They got a taste of what it's like to play deep into October. They saw firsthand how close they are to being genuine championship contenders. And instead of being satisfied with that, instead of running it back with basically the same roster and hoping for the best, they're going all in. They're adding pieces. They're upgrading the roster. They're trying to take that next step from World Series participants to World Series champions. Kyle Tucker represents that next step. He's a 28-year-old superstar in his prime. He's one of the best left-handed hitters in baseball. He hits for average. He hits for power. He gets on base. He plays solid defense. He does everything you want from an elite outfielder. Adding him to a lineup that already features Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette would create one of the most dangerous offensive cores in all of baseball. It would make the Blue Jays legitimate World Series favorites. It would signal to the rest of the league that Toronto is not messing around, that they're here to win now, and that they're willing to spend whatever it takes to make that happen. Third, and this might be the most important factor, let's talk about what Kyle Tucker is looking for in his next team. Money is obviously a huge part of it. You don't turn down $50 million a year unless you have a very good reason. But there's more to it than just the biggest paycheck. Tucker is 28 years old, about to turn 29. He's in the prime of his career. He wants to win. He wants to play for a contender. He wants to compete for championships. And right now, today, in January of 2025, The Toronto Blue Jays offer him the best chance to do exactly that. The Mets are still rebuilding. Yes, they are spending money. Yes, they are adding pieces. But they are not a finished product. They're not a team that's one player away from competing for a World Series. They're a team that's trying to build something, and that process takes time. Maybe they'll be great in 2 or 3 years. Maybe Steve Cohen's money will eventually buy them a championship. But right now, today, they're not there yet. The Dodgers are always competitive. They're always in the mix. But they're also dealing with significant injury concerns, an aging roster in some key positions, and the reality that they've been to the World Series multiple times in recent years without winning it all. Are they still one of the best teams in baseball? Absolutely. But are they clearly better than the Blue Jays right now? That's debatable. The Blue Jays, on the other hand, literally just made the World Series. They're coming off a deep playoff run. They have a young, talented core of players in their prime. They have one of the best pitching staffs in baseball. They have an elite defense. They have everything you need to compete for championships right now, today, not in some theoretical future. And they're located in Toronto, which is an incredible city with a passionate fan base and a baseball-crazy culture. The more I think about it, the more I analyze the situation, the more convinced I become that the Blue Jays are going to pull this off. Maybe that's the hopeful fan in me talking. Maybe I'm letting Ben Nicholson-Smith's optimism cloud my judgment. But I don't think so. I think there's real substance here. I think the Jays have made a genuinely competitive offer. I think they've sold Tucker on the vision of what this team can accomplish. And I think ownership has finally decided that this is the moment to go all in. We've waited years for the Blue Jays to make a splash like this. Years of watching other teams sign the big names while Toronto settled for solid but unspectacular additions. Years of wondering if Rogers would ever truly open the checkbook and compete with the big boys. And now, finally, it's happening. The money is there. The offer is real. The commitment is clear. All that's left is for Kyle Tucker to make his decision. One way or another, we're going to know very soon. This week. Possibly in the next few days. And when that announcement comes, when we find out where Kyle Tucker is signing, it's going to be one of the biggest stories in Blue Jays history. If it's Toronto, if the Jays actually pull this off, this city is going to go absolutely crazy. The championship window will be wide open. The expectations will skyrocket. And the Blue Jays will finally have landed the big fish. So buckle up, Blue Jays fans. Keep your notifications on. Stay glued to social media. Check this channel constantly for updates. Because we are in the final hours of one of the most significant free agent pursuits in franchise history, and everything we've heard in the last 24 hours suggests that Toronto might actually be about to do the impossible. The Mets should be scared. The Dodgers should be scared. Because the Blue Jays are coming, and they're not backing down. Ben Nicholson-Smith doesn't make statements like that unless he means them. And when the most cautious, most conservative Blue Jays insider in the business starts talking like that, you better believe something real is happening behind the scenes. Kyle Tucker is about to make his decision. The Blue Jays have made their offer. The stage is set. And in just a matter of days, possibly hours, we're going to find out if Toronto has finally broken through and landed the superstar they've been chasing. Stay tuned, because this is about to get very, very interesting. And if you're not already subscribed to this channel, what are you even doing? Hit that subscribe button right now. Smash the like button. Turn on notifications. Drop a comment below telling me what you think is going to happen. Do you believe the Blue Jays are actually going to land Kyle Tucker? Do you think Ben Nicholson-Smith knows something we don't? Are you as hyped as I am right now? Because let me tell you, I will be here the second any news breaks. The moment Kyle Tucker makes his decision, I will have a video up breaking down every single detail of what it means for the Blue Jays. You're not going to want to miss it. This is franchise-altering stuff, folks. This is the kind of moment that defines eras. And we're all about to witness it together. Let's go Blue Jays.